Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 5th, 2022, around 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about today, including newly designated Tropical Storm Alex that has finally become a tropical storm and moving towards Bermuda, and a look at potential more tropical troubles coming down the road here over the next couple of weeks. So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this afternoon, we continue to notice that we have this disturbance now actually designated as Tropical Storm Alex. This got its designation last night after crossing the southern Florida peninsula yesterday and finally became organized enough to be now called a tropical storm. Now, Alex is moving off towards the north and east at a pretty good clip here, more towards the east-northeast, and is expected to impact portions of Bermuda, the entire island, rather, of Bermuda, with tropical storm conditions over the next 48 hours. We notice here the graphical weather outlook here with Tropical Storm Alex. Again, maximum sustained winds of 55 knots or 65 miles per hour with a pressure of 991 millibars. This is the storm's current location here. It is still several hundred miles to the northwest of Bermuda, and its actual center is not expected to impact Bermuda. The center of circulation is expected to stay well to the north of Bermuda, but because of the large size of tropical storm conditions, there is now a tropical storm warning in effect for the island of Bermuda because of this reason. And then once Alex passes Bermuda, it will quickly become a post-tropical cyclone and a mid-latitude one, and not one that is tropical. So we really only have a few more advisories left here on Alex before it now becomes post-tropical. If we take a look here at the visible satellite imagery for Alex, we can tell that we do have at least a little bit better organization today. We actually have a well-defined low pressure center that is approximately right here. And this low pressure center was marked by the recon plane. And then we have a large area of convection off towards the north and east of the storm. And we notice that if we switch out to the wider view here, we notice just how massive this thing really is. You can see the rain bands. There are still rain bands that are pushing through Bermuda at the moment, or through the Bahamas rather, even though that the center is still several hundred miles away from there. Now, again, while this will be moving towards the north of Bermuda officially with the center track, all of this heavy weather that is currently over here, this will be moving eastward with time, and this wind field is expected to increase enough that there will be tropical storm conditions felt on the island of Bermuda. If we take a look here at the latest recon plane that was in there, the pressure center is actually a little bit further north of where it is on satellite, but the pressure center was around 996, but that was with about a 30 knot wind. So when you correct that down to the surface, it's about 992, 991 millibars. And we notice this large extension of hurricane force winds to the southeast of the center. Now, one might think that why is this not being designated a hurricane when this is clearly showing hurricane force winds at the flight level? Well, that's because it is at the flight level and they are flying above the surface where there is less friction. If we take a look here at the step frequency microwave radiometer, the SFMR wind here, this measures the wind at the surface using a complex interaction of wave heights and wind speed correlations. We notice that the SFMR rate here is only right around 55 knots, and that is what the initial intensity, if you go back here, that's what the initial intensity is set at right now, 55 knots or 65 miles per hour. Now, this could get a little bit stronger, maybe sustained winds up to 70 miles per hour, but this will likely not be enough to become a hurricane. Again, I just don't really see that happening. It's feasibly possible, but I don't really think that's going to be possible. And this is already beginning to take on some extratropical characteristics. There's kind of a boundary that's showing up right here. And there's definitely what seems to be a warm front up here. So this is kind of leading me to believe that this is already becoming and transitioning into a post-tropical cyclone at this point. So, good news is that over the next couple of days, we do not expect any tropical development either in the Eastern Pacific or the Atlantic Basin. This is from the 8 a.m. outlook, but it still stands as of the 2 p.m. outlook that there will be no tropical development, no additional tropical development over the next 5 days. So, that's all good news. However, 5 days, well, there's more coming down the pipeline over the next couple of weeks that we should talk about now. So, real quickly here, this is a look at the upper ocean heat content map, and this was updated yesterday, the tropical cyclone heat potential. And this is a different map, but again, the same things kind of stand here, that the warmer colors in this case, as you go up in the scale here, are the more potential there is really for intense hurricanes and warmer waters at depth. And we notice where those warmer waters at depth really are. They're near the Lesser Antilles and in the Caribbean. And really and truly, I mean, even with all of the convection that we had over the Caribbean over the last several days as a result of PTC1, or now what is now Alex, again, we notice that the tropical cyclone heat potential map is still reflecting a pretty good amount of tropical cyclone heat, in here. And so there really is still this area that we have to watch, given the fact that this will be an area of concern going forward in time over the next couple of weeks. We definitely could see more development in this region, and I don't really think we're quite done yet with this particular region. Now, this is also something that I found it very interesting here and a little concerning, honestly, given the fact that we are now in the hurricane season, and this is not something from like January or February. This is something that is during the hurricane season, and this is what makes it even more interesting. So this is the European precipitation anomaly, and this is the monthly ensemble for August of this year. And what we notice is we have enhanced precipitation anomalies all throughout the main development region, the Caribbean, and then in the southwestern Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico here, and off the northeast coast. Now, this does not explicitly really relate to hurricane tracks. However, when you have precipitation anomalies, especially like the signal here you're seeing in the main development region, this really goes to indicate enhanced precipitation, more thunderstorms. And typically, when you have more thunderstorms, you have more convection, you have more chances for tropical cyclone development. So while this doesn't really say anything about the tracks, you can kind of make out where we're going to be focusing on. Really, this year, it seems like we could be focusing on the Lesser Antilles, which really have not had a substantial threat, at least for the last several years. Of course, there was a small threat last year from some of the big hurricanes out here in the MDR, but we could be dealing with a much higher impact risk across the islands and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic this year. And of course, Florida and the Gulf Coast and the southwestern Atlantic and the Bahamas. This has really been a hot spot over the last several weeks, or not even weeks, the last several years for development. And then, of course, off the northeast coast, not really sure this is a tropical signal, but we could get some mid-latitude cyclones that become tropical cyclones as they move off towards the north and east. So really and truly, we're looking at a couple of areas for potential development, at least over the next several months. And one of the other things here, the sea surface temperature anomaly pattern really could be exceeded here. We notice that there's a large percentage here. This is, again, the European ensembles. And we could definitely see that almost 100% above, that's almost going into the 1 degree Celsius above the long-term average here across the main development region and in the southwestern Atlantic here and off the northeast coast. And what did we talk about? We talked about how this could create a ridge over troubled waters, basically, where you have this big ridge of high pressure and storms that are forced east or westward really because of that. And that's why we could be looking at a more enhanced risk, especially to the islands and the Caribbean, going into later this month. Now, the GFS forecast, real quickly, again, nothing over the next 5 days. We see what is now Alex begin to move out of the picture, and at least nothing happens for the next 5 days. But beyond that, we are going to be watching for some tropical potential, especially down here in the Eastern Pacific and the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico here. This is the European ensembles, and we are able to tell that, again, we get this area of enhanced low pressure both in the Eastern Pacific Basin and also in the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. And this could lead maybe to some extra development of tropical cyclones here before the end, really, of the month of June. And in fact, actually, if you take a look here at the 200 millibar wind, so this is wind at about 30,000 feet in the atmosphere, we notice that there's a broad anticyclone located over Central America. So could we be dealing with another Central American gyre? That is certainly another possibility. So maybe another repeat of Agatha and Alex. That could definitely be another repeat as we go forward in time. And to further kind of corroborate this is the GFS ensembles, and it too is going with the same thing here. This is just about at hour 192, and again, a large clustering of storms, potential storms down here in the Eastern Pacific, and kind of another one out here in the Caribbean. And if we take a look here at those 200 millibar wind profiles, again, we notice that although we have more favored over the Eastern Pacific, there could be another sloppy type system that develops out here in the Gulf of Mexico or the Caribbean. So we'll have to keep that on watch here, because it certainly looks like the tropics are beginning to heat up as we move further and deeper into the heart of the hurricane season. All right. That being said, I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon and evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.